England wins 16-15, but man, I mean, to say that could have gone either way is a massive understatement. Let's kick this one off now. Okay, starting in the first 20 minutes. And just early blood, again, for Scotland. They so often get a fast start against England in these games. And Van der Merwe created it. Duhan had just a brilliant game. He always seems to against England. I don't think he's ever had a quiet game against England. He literally jogged around Ollie Lawrence, put Tom Jordan away down the left, who gassed, I think it was Cowan Dickey or Genge, I can't remember which. And Ben White charging up on the inside for another try against England. He scored a few against England as well. Fair play to him, 4-0. And 4 minutes gone, 5-0. But there's a theme here, right? And it happened here, and it happened a lot of the other times Van der Merwe got space. England was so short-numbered on that side of the pitch. They had 3, maybe 4 players in half a pitch, or a little bit less maybe. And Ben Earl sprinted up towards the first receiver, which then meant it was 2v2 or 2 versus 3 in still a huge amount of space. That's what you don't want to give Van der Merwe. You don't want to be able to give him space. We saw later in the game that actually when England sort of managed to gang tackle him, or at least have 2 people in the tackle, that he was obviously far less dangerous. But England gave him a lot of space, and man, he exploits it. He's so good at that. And he made Lawrence look like he wasn't there for that first try. And Scotland are often flying. And I've got to say that I felt there was a lot of penalties in this game that I would describe as soft. Actually, maybe not this one that I'm going to talk about, but this is a new kind of penalty. It's something that got discussed. I think I heard commentators talking about this first a couple of years ago, and now you're starting to see it penalised. This is when a tackle's complete, 3, maybe 4 meters from touch, and then the defenders continue to hold the tackled player and drag him into touch to try and affect the turnover. And people were like, actually, is that legal? Because the tackle's complete. You should release the tackled player. So that's what happened when Tommy Freeman got the ball, won the ball back for England, and then was dragged into touch. I think this is right, but it's a new kind of penalty. We haven't seen many of these. So that was 7 minutes, and it was England's first kind of foothold into the game, and Freeman ended up scoring the try after England battered away. It was one of the few times England really got into Scotland's 22 and managed to maintain possession. In fact, they barely got into Scotland's 22 throughout the entire game, but they did for this time and maintained possession, got a penalty advantage, and then Freeman did a really smart thing, actually. He ran, and I don't know whether he lined himself up deliberately to do it, but he ran directly where the referee was stood, and whatever happens, that just causes like a moment of hesitation or whatever, and he managed to get through. Now, there's some controversy about this one as well, because all the angles we saw afterwards, well, I never saw the ball grounded myself. Let's put it that way. The referee was in a position that none of the cameras were looking at. He says he saw it grounded. So unless the TMO can categorically prove it wasn't, which there seemed to be a little break after the conversion had been hit, and then it all got sorted out. Yeah, unless the TMO could see that it definitely wasn't grounded, then they have to go with it. So 7-5 to England, that conversion going over from Marcus Smith. And then Scotland England actually caught kickoffs well today. A couple of things that England had done badly over recent years, they did well today, and that's catch their own kickoffs and win their own line-out ball. England caught their own kickoff, and Hugh Jones just laid on the wrong side and gave England an easy exit with a penalty. And then here's a story of the first half in terms of England's attack. They launched from the line-out and got turned over immediately by Jamie Ritchie. Just a lack of detail at the breakdown. Ritchie, quality at the breakdown, though. He won several penalties. Kyle Rowe was looking really, really busy, and he almost burst through directly from a line-up pretty much. But Finn Smith put in a big tackle. Again, a theme here. This was the first one, but there'll be many more throughout the course of this game. There was a more turnover to Scotland, but they got free kicked in the scrum. So England won that one. And then there was this massive period of box kick tennis, the type we haven't seen, frankly, for quite some time. This used to be man, there was a time when it was like, this was all that rugby was box kick tennis. And this was a return to the bad old days as far as I'm concerned. I think maybe the referee could have done a better job on hurrying the scrum halves up, so it got a little bit more unstructured. But it went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And during this point, I got more interested in the boot that was still lying around on the Twickenham turf and trying to figure out who it belonged to. Eventually, when somebody dropped it or knocked it into touch or whatever, it was revealed that it was Will Stewart's boot. And everything was revealed. I felt happy after that. And thankfully, actually, we didn't see too much more box kick tennis. There was a bit, but not too much more. 20 minutes gone. Hugh Jones scores the try. And this, again, created by Duhan van der Merwe. And it's hard to say here because the quality of possession from Scotland at the line out wasn't great. It was towards the front. It was a little bit juggly. Russell fizzed the ball wide, and England just sort of bit in narrow and then were chasing wide, which allowed Duhan a one-on-one versus Marcus. He stepped inside Marcus, and I think it was Lawrence came in across, but then he managed to offload out of that tackle to Jones. And again, England just needed to, however they did it, I mean, you can't be soft in the midfield, but at the same time, leaving him one-on-one with Marcus, it's only ever going to go one way, isn't it? So, great try by Scotland. Finished it superbly well. But for me, it didn't seem like outstanding Scottish attacking play, apart from the one-on-one stuff with Duhan that created that. It seemed just a bit weak English defence, in my opinion. Into the second 20. Let's have your comments in, guys, as well. Any thoughts about the game? Any players that impressed you? Any incidents that you want me to talk about that maybe, I don't know, a refereeing decision or whatever that you're not sure about, or tactically if people were doing things you sort of disagreed with or agreed with? Do you think Duhan was player of the match? Let us know. England was scrumming long in this half. And what I mean by that is they were on their ball, they were keeping the ball in the scrum and really looking to ideally win a penalty, but if not, really tire those Scots out in the scrummage. And it was a tight battle. I'd say England had the edge, but only just. Like, it was tight. Apart from one scrum, which Stewart did an absolute number on Schumann in, it was very tight across the scrummaging game. England, though, were getting the penalties, but like I say, I think they were pretty marginal. If England were winning it on the ground, Scotland was certainly winning it in the air. The aerial battle was being won by them. They were getting Kinghorn against Marcus Smith several times and winning those. Most of the time, it was on the far side of the pitch as we were looking in the first half, and they definitely had the edge there. It was very rare that Freeman got to go up against Van der Merwe, where I think Freeman probably had the edge, but Scotland were winning the area battle and therefore the kicking battle, and they were dominating territory, looking powerful in the carry. And at this point, honestly, England really weren't getting much on the pitch. They weren't getting positions where they could launch anything from. So the amount of rugby they were playing was almost none. They were playing one phase and kick on a regular basis. And it was, a bit of a return to the bad old days. Like, for me, in terms of, I don't get excited watching that kind of rugby. I know it's pragmatic. I know it might eventually lead to wins, which it did today. But I want to be excited watching England play. And there's so much of that first half that did not excite me at all. In fact, quite the opposite. But we'll move on. There's some penalties at the line out. Oh, yeah, this was a real soft one, actually. There was a few soft ones, but going both ways. So it definitely wasn't just on one team here, but line out one with Itoje and Stewart taking the man in the air. Technically, I agree. Like, they definitely did have hands on the jumper while the person was up in the air, but they didn't really do anything until they hit the ground. Didn't affect anything until they hit the ground, but technically a fair penalty. Willis was off shortly afterwards after a friendly fire from Genge. Ben Curry on early, who, again, like, he's just a machine. Like, he never, ever, his level's never lower. Like, he's so good. England won another scrum penalty, and this was a big one, actually. This was the one where Stewart got a proper nudge on Schumann, and it was a great kick to the corner as well. Oh, no, sorry, this was up the left-hand touchline, where England did actually, they got Lawrence one-on-one with Finn Russell, basically. And they got other players one-on-one with Finn Russell in the second half, and that was their method of getting over the gain line through the midfield. Lawrence went clean through when a congested midfield as well. It looked very difficult to get through there, but he managed to get one-on-one with Russell, offloaded to Marcus Smith, who just could not find the support. He was looking, he was dancing. All the other players were sort of running to the corner. One of the Scots, I can't remember who it was, but did a really good job of kind of getting in the passing lane. And then England flooded that breakdown. All those players that went through, they all immediately went to the breakdown when really they only needed 2, maybe 3. And then they all had to bounce back out again. And that made it a little bit messy when they came to attack the next phase. Lawrence steamed onto the ball, tried to offload, Twickenham offload, but it went over. Who was it out there? Slytome, I think, was stood out on the wing, on the right wing there, into touch. And that was half time. And if England had scored then and got into the half time in the lead, it would have felt like an absolute travesty as far as I'm concerned. Scotland were really dominant in terms of territory and possession. I think England were very lucky to be that, even 7-10 on the scoreboard at half time. England were getting the line out possession that in pre-game I suggested that they really needed to do, and they haven't done for a long time. Quality possession as well, almost entirely from Chesham. But they didn't get it high enough up the pitch and therefore weren't launching plays. And every time they did, the Scots were brilliant at turning the ball over. England allowed far too many one-on-ones for Duhan van der Merwe, who absolutely took advantage of every single one of them. And general, actually, the game was just like kind of lacking flow. There was quite a few stoppages, quite a few attacking errors, but there were some massive moments, like the Scottish tries, beautiful tries, that Lawrence break, and various other bits and pieces. There were some big moments, but generally it was a bit stop-start, and you could hear it in the crowd. It was a bit sort of murmury at the Alliance Stadium there, and yeah, lacking flow. And I kind of realised towards the third or fourth quarter, another reason why I think that might have been as well. Hamilton Smith here with a comment, which has obviously made me chuckle. Let's get that up on the screen. I thought the Irish performance was atrocious today until I watched England play rugby from the dark ages. Finn Russell is playing himself out of the Lions starting spot. Yeah, actually, funnily enough, I think Finn Russell maybe played better today than he has so far this tournament, but he still kicked poorly and made some pretty sizable errors, but he did plenty of good stuff as well, did Finn. But yeah, he's not charging towards that Lions 10 jersey. That is for certain. England, rugby from the dark ages. It's kind of just what I've been talking about as well, isn't it? Like, just they won't play any rugby whatsoever until they get a position somewhere near the opposition 22. In this game anyway, they've been through phases in the last 2 years where they have changed that, but they didn't today. And it's, for me, I want to be entertained. I want to see England attack and try and challenge teams. And in that respect, it was disappointing for me today. Okay, into the third quarter. Elko disagrees, by the way. Nothing atrocious about the Irish. Yeah, I'm with you, I think. Atrocious is maybe harsh. I think it was a tough, tight game, and they showed a lot of character to come through in a difficult scenario. Okay, but we're talking about England-Scotland here, so let's go on with that. Start of the second half, and Scotland, frankly, continued as they had done for most of the first, just dominating in the air and winning the kicking battle. But shortly afterwards, England did manage some quality attacking shape, similar to the end of the France game, where they got into waves and waves of attack. But sadly, that ended with an Ollie Lawrence knock-on from who was it? Henry Slade. Henry Slade tried to chick him in offload, and Lawrence knocked it on. But that was encouraging for me. England had actually shown some ambition to play, that got into Scotland territory and looked dangerous doing it. So, for me, good. But this shows now a little bit, I think, of Steve Borthwick's evolution as a coach, maybe. Last week, all substitutions were really late. He thought the team on the pitch were doing what was required. This week, not so much. He recognised he thought he needed more experience on there. So George and Daly came on after 45 minutes. But at the same time, Scotland was still getting to edges constantly. They were still narrowing England up and getting around the outside and looking absolutely lethal. They couldn't get it far enough up the pitch, and they couldn't get it to where they were actually scoring. But they looked like they were just cutting England to pieces for a lot of that game, which was what we talked about pre-game. That was Scotland's strengths, it's England's weakness, and it absolutely showed throughout. Jordan Cunningham himself came on from Tom Curry. Tom Curry actually looked like he got a whack early and eventually hobbled off around 50 minutes. And I mentioned Finn Smith's tackles earlier. He absolutely belted Jordan. Jordan, who, by the way, I thought had a really good game for Scotland as well. Man, he is physical, is he not? And I don't know if he's put on an extra couple of inches of height and pounds of weight in the last few weeks, but he looks massive. But he played really well, I thought. But that led to a penalty for England. And shortly afterwards, Jamie George won a really clean turnover. And England had a chance here. And I think for a really rare time, I could be wrong, we didn't get to see a replay, but I think Finn Smith really should have gone out of the back to Marcus. And that would have probably been a 2-on-1 in the corner. But he didn't. He hit the front runner, and that was a chance gone. We didn't have many chances. England did not have many chances. And I think I'd like to see that one again, but I really think that was the wrong option taken by Finn Smith, a rarity. 55 minutes, another Chesham line-out. I'm not sure. I'd love to see the stats, but it felt like every single England line-out was thrown to Chesham today, certainly up to this point. Lawrence put all through a hole, which led to an offside penalty in 10-10. I mean, 55 minutes. It felt like an age since the last score. Yeah, it was 35 minutes since the previous score. Such a long time in the game with no points. And I was saying to myself, as Scotland lined up to kick it, just catch it, just catch it. And Mara caught it. And I was like, yes, fantastic. And then Mitchell kicked it straight into touch, which was mind-blowing. And Randall, when he came on, did one that was not straight into touch, but just straight up in the air as well. So now England are catching the kickoffs, but they're not getting clean exits. Mitchell, he didn't have his best game today. The quality of England possession wasn't great. There was a lot of legs and arms all over the ball at the base of rucks. And England didn't play the type of game that suits Mitchell anyway. Like, they barely played any phases. So he didn't have his best game. There was a ridiculous turnover from Maro Itoje shortly afterwards. Big question marks on legality here. Like, I'm really not sure. Like, he was clearly had all his weight on his hands, which are on the ball. Like, I don't know. It looked wrong to me. It looked wrong. And Finn Russell certainly felt like it was wrong. And here, this is another reason why I think the game lacked a lot of flow. It seemed there were a lot of penalties against the attacking side in this game. There were errors as well, but for me, like, it just seemed like constantly the team that was attacking got penalised. There were some good turnovers which earned them, but there was also some just other sort of random stuff that it didn't really seem to fit. So, yeah, the game definitely lacked a bit of flow. Plenty of drama, plenty of tension for sure, but flow, not so much. Yep, Scotland, this was one I talked about pre-game. Scotland were getting Kinghorn up against Marcus in the air quite regularly. Cross-field kind of bomb-type situations. They did it loads of times. Richie won a turnover penalty, which was his third, really good in the game. But Russell missed kick to touch. I mean, yeah, Hamilton, you're right. That was another bad moment for Russell there. Like, key moments sometimes. This was another one that seemed a bit soft to me. This was when Ollie Chesham carried the ball into Kyle Rowe. Kyle Rowe's backing away. Chesham's just carrying, like he's not doing anything in particular. Kyle Rowe's backing away, and they did clash heads. There is head contact. But like, I don't, unless Rowe just sort of like ran out of the way, I'm not quite sure what he's supposed to have done. Like, he wasn't attempting a tackle. Like, he was trying to get out of the way, really. He was trying to avoid contact, I think, as much as anything. But head-on-head is technically a penalty, but this is the kind of soft type of thing that it felt there was a bit of in this game today. This was a really good touch finder from Finn Smith. He got it 6-7 meters out, maybe. England attacked with some pretty decent purpose. Again, not actually, they did move the ball a bit. It wasn't just pick and go during this phase. Probably a little bit too much for my taste. But they did win a penalty and kicked that to get into the lead for not the first time in the game, but for a very long time. Shortly afterwards was another example of a soft penalty. And this is when Darge, and I think it was Ashman, lifted up Ben Curry when he was trying to compete for a ruck in midfield. And he was kind of like flying around for a little bit, like Spider-Man? I don't know. Like it all looked very strange. It looked like he was looked like he just jumped out of an aeroplane, and they let him go. Like it was from no height, and he wasn't sort of head downwards. For me, there was nothing in that one, but you know, the referees have got a duty of care to the players. So I don't know. I felt like that was a bit of a soft penalty against the Scots. But Finn Smith stepped up and whacked it over from very close to halfway for 16-10. Massive moment, but importantly, still within a score. And when it's within a score and you've got Duhan van der Merwe on the pitch, I was absolutely far from convinced England were going to see it out. They got the ball back briefly, but Daly whacked it out on the full. I was just like, get it downtown. There's so much space down there. And yeah, and there's nobody, well, very few players on the England side that you'd want more in that situation. And it landed a metre out, which gave Scotland position. It gave them a chance. Chesham gave a penalty away from the line out, which gave them another chance. But Itoje won that line out. And then it led to just a period of massive defence from England. 16 phases, pushing Scotland slowly back up the pitch. This was big from England. This was what the defence should look like. And Scotland just, I don't know, they had to play. And it felt like they lost their shape a little bit. And as England sort of pushed them backwards, they lost more shape. And eventually, Ewan Ashman tried an offload and it went forwards into touch. Yeah, so forwards into touch. That's right. And then there was a penalty against England at the line out. I can't remember what that one was. Blocking off. So Itoje caught it clean. A rare take for Itoje instead of Chesham. And then they blocked him off. Again, a penalty against the attacking team, or the team in possession, I should say. And that gave Scotland a last opportunity. Scotland did an incredible set play. Shot back, very Irish, very Leinster, very Joe Smith. But then Stafford McDowell screaming through the midfield. England just about managed to bring him down, but Scotland recycled. Duhan van der Merwe strolling over in the left corner. Could he have done more to get round? Actually, I've only just thought about that. Maybe. He seemed very comfortable when he was going round there. Could he have done more? I don't know. We'll have to check the replays for that one. Anyway, wide conversion. The TV company did a terrible job of covering it, so we had no idea until the crowd cheered that it was going wide. And, of course, assuming that that was a majority England crowd, as it landed out off the pitch. There were some tricky moments after that as well, but England somehow saw the game out when there were actually, I haven't made notes about this, but Scotland got the ball back, didn't they? And played quite a lot of multi-phases, won a penalty. Itoje gave a penalty away, I think it was. So they got a line-out start, and then Carl Rowe got picked up, turned into a maul, and eventually walked over the touchline for the end of the game. A lot of very upset Scots for various things. There were some very marginal calls in this game, I think. There were some difficult ones. I think it was a tricky one for the referee. And you can understand some frustration on both sides, probably. I'm sure England were frustrated about some decisions as well, because there was a lot of stuff that was really sort of borderline. So tough for the referee, very difficult. Did the right team win? I don't know. Like, I felt England played really within themselves for a lot of this game. I think the best rugby was certainly played by Scotland with the 3 tries that they scored. All of them were outstanding. There was plenty of this game, though, where they didn't really play a lot. They kicked a lot from the middle third as well. Maybe if they played a little bit more, they might have taken this game away from England. Hard to say, because they were getting joy from the kicking game and the territory battle. So it's a tough one. If you are getting joy from it, you'd carry on, wouldn't you? Yeah, it's a tricky one. I don't know what I'd do if I was them. And when they analyse it, it'll be interesting to see what they come up with. There's some more comments here. Fantastic stuff. Mr. Evil Badger, back with us again. Good to see you. Scotland will look back on that and wonder how they lost that. They seemed on top so much, yet England disrupted and stayed in it. The England bench was vastly superior to the Scottish. Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Some good performances from the England bench. I thought Cunningham South came on and was super physical. Some big carries and some big tackles. In particular, I thought Ben Curry did well when he came on. I thought Randall, actually, I don't know whether it's just because England needed to play a little bit more, so it suited him when it came on, but the ball just felt a lot cleaner and quicker when he came on. Again, it could just be circumstantial that. But yeah, who off the Scottish bench made an impact? Yeah, nobody's really coming to mind. Ferguson was physical. I think he sort of had a few good moments. McDowell, I guess, with that screaming break, which almost led to the match-winning try or the match-winning score. Yeah, not many others, though. Not many others, I don't think. Okay, we will call this one here now, as I am going to go and chat with Elko about the Wales Island game earlier today, which, yeah, I think was a better game than this one overall. It had more in it. This one felt quite stop-start today. But, yeah, so I said at the start, I've got mixed feelings. I'm delighted that England have won and got the Calcutta cut back, but I'm pretty nonplussed about how they went about it, to be honest. They got the win, but uninspiring, I think, is the way I would describe England's performance today. Thanks so much for watching, and you can, don't forget to subscribe somewhere. Come and subscribe here with you for as long as I still like rugby, which is pretty much ever, and watch all the other shows as well. We're going to be doing proper in-depth match reports on all the matches this weekend. So enjoy it, and thanks very much for coming. Cheers.